Okay, so for this video, we'll be continuing with this slide. Is your 11.2a. So what are the reactions of acids? Okay, so there are actually three reactions that is very important. The first one is acid plus metal. But take note, it is not all the metals. Now, what are examples of metals? They are those metals, they are those elements that you can find in a periodic table in group 1, 2, or 3. So to give some examples, we have metals such as sodium, we have calcium, we have potassium, sorry, K is potassium, Ca is calcium. Then we have magnesium. Then we also have aluminium. So some of these metals will actually react with acid. The next important reaction is acid plus carbonate. So what are carbonates? Carbonates, they contain this CO3 2 minus group. Okay, CO3 2 minus. The 3 belongs to O, which is oxygen. The C is 1. So there's 1 C and 3 O. What is the 2 minus? 2 minus is actually the charge. Okay, so it's having a negative 2 charge. The third reaction that you need to know is acid plus alkaline. So we have done in previous lessons that acids are those that produces H plus ions. So examples of acid we have HCl, hydrochloric acid, we have H2SO4, and also nitric acid, HNO3. Okay, so these are the acids. For the alkalines, they are the one that has hydroxide ions. What are hydroxide ions? They are OH minus. Okay, so the two alkalines that we need to know is potassium hydroxide, KOH, and sodium hydroxide. Okay, so now let's look at the reactions one by one in detail. So the first one is acid plus metal. So acids react with some metals to form a salt and hydrogen gas. Hydrogen gas, it is H2. Okay, so when we are talking about hydrogen as an element, it is H. When we're talking about hydrogen as an ion, okay, it is H plus. This is an ion. How does it achieve H plus? Because it has lost one electron, right? It has lost one electron. Then when we are talking about hydrogen gas, you must memorize that it is H2. Okay, so acid plus metal will produce salt and hydrogen gas. This is an important general chemical reaction that you need to know when acid is added to metal. So the first word equation is hydrochloric acid, which is HCl. You add to magnesium, it will form magnesium chloride and hydrogen gas. Okay, then we also have sulfuric acid, which is H2SO4, something that we need to memorize. It can also react with magnesium, and it will be magnesium sulfate, okay, plus hydrogen gas. Okay, so how is this salt formed? If we have time, I will go through it. Okay, but we continue first. Acid plus metal, the type and name of the salt depends on the acid used. Okay, so this is the important part. When we are dealing with hydrochloric acid, do you remember that hydrochloric acid is actually HCl? So it is actually made out of H plus ion and the chloride ion. So you must memorize that chlorine is in a periodic table, but when it gains one electron, right, it actually becomes chloride. Okay, so if you were to look at chlorine in the periodic table, it is 17 and 35, I think. Okay, so 17 is actually the number of protons, which is equal to number of electrons. Okay, so that means I have 17 electrons. That means I can write down the electronic configuration. Okay, and remember the first shell can only accommodate 2, followed by 8, which is a full shell, and lastly we only have 7 electrons left in the valence shell. Okay, so how does it become stable? It needs to add in one more electron. So when you add in electron, which is actually a negative charge, it will then become Cl minus. So that is how we get chloride ion. Okay, so you must remember, if I'm dealing with hydrochloric acid, it will become chloride salt. How about sulfuric acid? Sulfuric acid is H2SO4. So just now I told you sulfate, it is SO4 2 minus. How many S are there? 1. How many O's? There are 4. And SO4 collectively they have this negative 2 charge. That means if I'm using sulfuric acid, I add to a metal, a salt having that metal plus the sulfate will become the salt. Okay. On top of that, there will also be hydrogen gas. Later we'll take a look. The last one is nitric acid. Again, you have to memorize that it is HNO3. So nitrate, it is having this NO3 minus. If you look at the notes that I attached in our Google Classroom, you'll see what is a nitrate. So you need to memorize chloride, sulfate, and nitrate. So chloride is Cl minus, sulfate is SO4 2 minus, nitrate is NO3 minus. Notice how I read it. I read out the elements first and the number of elements that it has, the number of atoms that it has, then followed by the charge. So nitrate will be NO3 minus. Sulfate will be SO4 minus, 2 minus, okay? So acid plus metal, acid react with some metals to form a salt and hydrogen gas. This is what you need to know. There are some metals which can react with acid. They are magnesium, aluminium, zinc, and iron. Okay, and also explosive reactions occur when using reactive metals such as lithium Li, sodium Na, potassium K. Okay, then the unreactive metals such as copper, silver, and gold do not react. Okay, so how do we test for hydrogen gas? This is important. We place a lighted splint. That means the splint has some flame. We did this practical in the lab, right? So we place a lighted splint in the presence of the gas. If the hydrogen is present, that means I add metal to some unknown liquid and we suspect that there's a gas. We place a lighted splint in the presence of the gas. The lighted splint will extinguish with a pop sound. So you need to memorize this. This is the test for hydrogen gas. Okay, next one is acid plus carbonate. You remember carbonate, it is CO3 with a charge of 2 minus. So I read C first. O, how many O? 3 O's and 2 minus. So carbonates are CO3 2 minus. You can't change it. Okay, when we are referring to carbonate, it is CO3 2 minus. Okay, we can't change it. So the acids react with carbonates to form a salt, carbon dioxide gas, and water. This is important. So this is the general word equation. Acid plus carbonate, we form salt. What kind of salt? We have carbon dioxide because we have carbonate, right? And lastly, we have water. Okay, so hydrochloric acid, HCl, okay, plus sodium carbonate. Now, carbonate is CO3, 2 minus. We have sodium, which is Na, plus, so I will need Na2, CO3, 2 minus, okay? So, sodium carbonate is Na2CO3. Okay, so it will form sodium chloride. Why did it form sodium chloride? Remember, if we are using hydrochloric acid, the salt will be chloride, Cl, and we name it after the metal, right? Because they switch. And there will definitely be carbon dioxide, gas, and water. How about if we use nitric acid? It will be HNO3, right? So calcium carbonate is Ca, carbonate is CO3, so it will form calcium nitrate. Okay, so you may not know how to form this thing, but you need to know what is a salt called. Because we are using nitric acid and it has this group called the NO3 minus. This is what we call the nitrate group. Just like this is the chloride. Okay, this is the ion. So we will take the name of the metal and then we'll combine it with the nitrate to form calcium nitrate. Then there will always be carbon dioxide gas and water. So how do we test for carbon dioxide gas? This is important. We must bubble the gas through lime water, and if carbon dioxide is present, it will form a white precipitate, which is like a white solid with the lime water. We have done this practical in the lab. Okay, so take note of how we force the gas to go inside this lime water, right? We do not pour this content in. We just let the carbon dioxide move and it will form a white precipitate with the lime water. Okay, so again, this is important. You need to memorize. Okay, last one is acid plus alkaline. So acid reacts with alkaline. Still remember alkaline? It must have this OH minus, which is the hydroxide group. Okay, it will form a salt. How do we name the salt? Remember, we will see what is the acid that is formed. Okay, you will form a salt and water. So this is the general word equation you need to memorize. Acid plus alkaline, it will form salt and water. And this has a special name called neutralization, because later on when we are doing a pH, which is how acidic or how alkaline something is, the something that is neutral, it is 7. Okay, 14 is alkaline, very alkaline, and 1 is very acidic. So number between 1 to 14 is 7. This is neutral. We will touch on in the next set of slides. So acid plus alkaline, hydrochloric acid, write this down again, HCl, and my chloride is the is what is going to be forming in the salt, chloride, and we take the metal to form with this chloride. So what happens to the hydroxide? Still remember what is hydroxide? Hydroxide is OH minus. Okay, so it will form with H plus of the acid. These two will come together and they will then form my water. So the salt, you just take the metal, which is the name that is in front over here, and then we see what is the acid. If it's hydrochloric acid, then it's chloride. If it's sulfuric acid, it is H2SO4, and it has this functional group called SO4 2-. Okay, now this is my potassium, this is my metal, so I'll make the salt calling them potassium sulfate. Okay, and what about hydroxide? It is OH minus. It will combine with the H plus ion from the acid, and together these two will form my water. Okay, so in summary, these are the 3 important reactions. Of course, these are the general ones that you need to know, but you must learn how to apply. How do we name the salt? It depends on the kind of acid that we use. We have 3 kinds of acid, HCl, so the salt will be a chloride salt. We have H2SO4, which is our sulfuric acid, so the salt will be a sulfate salt. Okay, what goes in front is the name of the metal. Then we have our nitric acid, okay, and it will form the salt nitrate, something nitrate. So in front will be the name of the metal. On top of that, you need to know how to test for the gas. If it's carbonate, it will be carbon dioxide gas produced, so use lime water. If it's hydrogen gas, then we need to use a lighted splint. If it's water, it's just water. All right. Okay, so that's it for this set of slides. Okay, so 11.2a. Okay, I'll be going through 11.3 and 11.4 next.